Hi, and welcome to Stressed, the podcast to develop your stress resilience. Being ambitious and successful while living a happy life is possible. Learn how you can better cope with stress in day-to-day situations by applying tools and techniques that work for you. My name is Julia Arndt, and I'm extremely grateful that you decided to check out my podcast today. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to Stressed, the podcast to develop your stress resilience. I am so excited and, as always, so grateful that you are spending your time with me right now to learn a little bit more about the notion of beginning again. It's such a beautiful and powerful concept that I have heard about for the first time in a yoga teacher training course that I completed, I think, 2 years ago, and it super stuck with me. I think I heard about it the first time and I was like, wow, this is so simple and so basic and yet so profound, because we always feel like when we are starting something new and we are failing, and it is pretty sure that we are failing because we are not perfect human beings, and we just need a couple of tries sometimes in order to bring something new in our life. It is important to remind ourselves, and it is important to remind yourself, that you can always begin again. You can always start again. And what I see really often people do is, especially when the new year is coming around, we're setting all these New Year's resolutions. We are setting a resolution and a new goal that we want to be healthier. We want to exercise more. We want to reach out to certain people. And then we are trying maybe for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then we're slipping slowly but surely back into our old routines. And when we stop and we are honest with ourselves, we realize that we are back in our old patterns, and all of the new goals and all of the new aspirations are out of the window. And then we're like, oh, that's just how it is. Until 2020, I will not be able to start again with this challenge. And today is a reminder for you that you can always start again. You don't have to wait for 2020. You don't have to wait until the beginning of the new month. You don't even have to wait until the beginning of the next week. You can start again now. Or if you want to, you can start again tomorrow. Because this is really the beauty of life, and this is what it is all about, to stick to it and to begin again and to not give up, because it is absolutely normal that you are slipping into old routines and patterns. And I want to talk with you about this topic today because I have slipped with my morning routine over the last couple of weeks, and I have not been very happy with myself. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going back to it right now, and I'm trying my best every day to do something that is really good for myself. So if you remember, and if you have maybe listened to the podcast episode around routines, then you know that I have a really kind of firm routine in the mornings when I'm getting up to not check my phone. I'm usually completely disconnected for an hour before I start really my day, my work day, because it is important for me to sit with myself for the first hour and to not give out my energy to other people. So I don't look at my phone. I'm drinking a glass of water, I'm journaling, and then I'm making breakfast, and then I'm starting to check all of the messages that I have received overnight and in the morning. And so over the last couple of weeks, I have slipped with that routine. I have started to roll over again, take my phone from my nightstand and check my messages, because even though I had been doing this new routine for over 9 months, I think even almost for a year now, I have slipped back into an old routine where I'm checking my phone in the morning. And when I'm completely honest with myself, I knew that it doesn't have a great effect on me, because from the minute get-go, from the minute I opened my eyes, I started to have thoughts in my head about all of the things that I needed to get done during that day, and it didn't leave any room for myself. And so because I started to immediately check my phone, I didn't find time to journal because I was right on my computer answering emails and answering messages from clients and from potential clients that had reached out to me overnight. So can you see how I slowly slid back into those old patterns? It's terrible, and I'm not proud of myself by saying that and by accepting that and by sharing that with you, but that's just what happened. And it happened because I'm a human being and because I'm getting distracted and because obviously my business is extremely important for me and I want to be successful, but it doesn't mean that when I'm getting up in the morning that I have to check my emails right away and that people are expecting an answer of me right away. And that was a really powerful realization, and it was important for me to be brutally honest with myself that had slipped and that I have to get back into my old routine. So first of all, when we are talking about the notion of beginning again, it is important, as always, and as everything in stress management and in personal development, to be aware of what's going on, to be honest with ourselves, and to accept what is going on, and to maybe look at what has been going on in our lives at the moment, and to be gentle with ourselves, because maybe we have experienced an extremely difficult period. Maybe there was a lot of stuff going on in our lives, either professional or personal, and it just happened, and that's totally okay. And I think it's really important to sit with those feelings and to not try to push those feelings away, but to just be honest with ourselves and say, hey, I slipped and it's okay. I know why it happened, but it doesn't mean that I cannot start again and start again, right? So what I've been doing over the last couple of days is obviously trying to get back into my routine. But what I have realized is that I have started to set up really early meetings with my customers and with my clients. And so sometimes it is really difficult for me to do all of the things that I'm setting out to do in the morning. Sometimes I do need to check my phone because it is really important to make sure that the people have accepted a calendar invite, for example. So what is really important to note here is to be okay with certain circumstances and to be flexible with your goals. So if, for example, your routine is your morning routine and there's a certain step-by-step process that you have created for yourself, but then there's a few things that you just didn't get to do, that doesn't mean that you should be waiting until tomorrow to do it. Just find an hour in the afternoon or find an hour in the evening to sit down and journal and do something for yourself. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares if you're doing it in the morning or in the evening. The most important thing is that you're doing it. I just had a conversation with a client actually about this, because she set a goal around every Monday she wants to sit down with her calendar and she wants to plan out her week. So I went out with her on Tuesday and I asked her, did you sit down yesterday and write down the goals for the week? And she's like, no, I didn't. She's like, I'm going to do it next week on Monday. I'm like, why are you waiting until next week on Monday to do this? I'm like, today is Tuesday. You said to me that you don't have any plans for Tuesday night. You still have a whole day on Wednesday as well, because she's working Thursday to Sunday. And you have still time to do that. Just because you didn't do it on Monday and you set yourself the goal of doing it on Monday doesn't mean if you don't do it on Monday, your whole week is screwed up. Just do it the next day. Do it a couple of hours later. Just find the time to do it, and don't find all the time excuses of why you cannot do it. That is really, really important. So I think creating flexibility around your goals and not being too strict and rigid with yourself is really important to still move forward and to get in the things that you set out to do. Because one of the most important things as well is to test and iterate. So maybe at the beginning you thought it is really good to do a routine in the morning. But honestly, maybe that's not something that is not really feasible for you because of the circumstances that you're living with right now. But it doesn't mean that you cannot have a routine at another point during your day. And then another really interesting and important thing that I wanted to share with you today is when we are talking about that notion of beginning again, is that sometimes we think that if we don't do, that we don't progress and that we don't develop ourselves. And that is not true. It is really important for me that you know that even if sometimes you feel like you are inactive and you're not doing physically something, maybe you're not posting a new podcast episode, or you're not posting something new on social media, or whatever it is that you're doing, maybe it is a certain project at work that you're working on. And then sometimes we are afraid that because we kind of let it go, that we cannot start again. Again, you can always start again. You can always start right now. It doesn't need to mean that you have to wait until the next year to set a new resolution. It's important that you know every day is a new day to begin again. And I think it's so powerful and so beautiful. And what I want to tell you with that, and with that specific example around the inactiveness and the doing something, is that sometimes we need time for ourselves because there's a lot of stuff going on. We are processing a ton of information every day, and we are not in the same state of mind every day, especially as women, and this is specifically for women, but I'm sure that men have other challenges and similar challenges in a way, that we are, as women, influenced by our hormonal system, right? I'm sure that all of you can relate to that. We are having our period every 25 to 30 days, and there's a lot of hormonal changes that are going on in our body that influence our emotional system and our well-being. And so sometimes that means that we're going through an emotional, difficult time. We're going through a lot of different thoughts and feelings, and we're feeling immobile and we're feeling inactive. But all of this process is part of your life. All of the things, everything. And even though if you're feeling inactive because you're not actioning something, it doesn't mean that you're not progressing and that you're still going through the self-reflective moment and that you're having a lot of learnings along the way. Because this is all part of the process. Every little step that you're taking, no matter if it is an active step or if it is a thought process that you're working through, it's all part of the bigger picture, and it's all extremely important in order to get to where you want to go. And sometimes this can take years, and that's totally okay. Who said that you have to build a business in 2 months? Who said that you have to be perfect every day in your life? Nobody is. We are all having challenges, and we are all having things that we're going through. And it is important that you are gentle with yourself and that you remind yourself that everything that you're doing, everything that you're going through, all of the thoughts that you have and all of the tries that you take are part of this beautiful thing called life. So with beginning again, I want to encourage you to think of something that you have set out to do maybe this year, or a goal that you have put in place and that you have maybe lost track of. And that's totally okay. Accept that that's just what happened. Think about all of the things that you have done in between, all of the learnings that you had in between, and set yourself maybe a little goal of how you can start again. Acknowledge that you are a flexible human being and you can do it. You can start again. You can do something tomorrow instead of a Monday. You can start again. I'm giving you another example. My sister just started a podcast. She didn't upload a podcast episode in the last 2 months because there was a lot of stuff going on in her life. She's a single mom and she has a lot of different challenges that she's going through on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't mean that her podcast is screwed up. What did she do? She just started again. Last week, she started again to upload new podcast episodes because she said, this is important to me and I'm going through a self-development process and I love doing podcast episodes and I love helping people. And just because I didn't upload a new podcast episode in the last 2 months doesn't mean I can't do it I can't do a new podcast episode tomorrow. And that was really inspiring for me, and I really love and appreciate her for that, because that just shows how of a powerful being she is and how she can inspire people with exactly that message. So I wanted to bring this message to you as well. And I hope that you will find a little bit of inspiration in this podcast today, telling yourself you always have the power to start again. Every day is a new day to start again. And I think it is so powerful, and it makes it so easy to remind ourselves that our life is just an ebb and flow of things, and it's absolutely normal. And we have the power to create a life that we love every single day. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. I would love if you would come over to Instagram and share with me what you have set out to do again. So we can all support you in this goal, and we can share what we are doing together in order to get there. Because when you have a support system in place, it's just so much more fun and so much more powerful. And I just really love to hear from you every day as well. So thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. It's a pleasure to have you here. And if you really like what you're hearing, and if you think there's more people that should hear this message, please feel free to share it with anyone that you think should hear this message today. I would really appreciate it. And I also haven't heard from you in a while in terms of sending me a review on my podcast. So if you have listened to the podcast over a couple of weeks now, and I hope that you like what you're hearing, I would love to get a review from you on iTunes, and hear a little bit about what this podcast has helped you to start integrating into your own life. So this is all that I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for being here. With gratitude, Julia.
If you enjoyed this episode, I would be extremely happy and grateful if you could leave me a comment and a 5-star rating. If you know someone who would benefit from the information I talked about today, please feel free to share it with them, no matter if it is your friends, your colleagues, and/or your family members. You will always find all links and a summary of the podcast in the show notes. It would be great if we could connect on Instagram or via email. You can find all details of how to find me in the show notes as well. In that way, you can also send me any questions that you might have. And as I mentioned, I also have a wonderful YouTube channel now where you can post comments and questions, so please reach out. I'm glad you're listening to this podcast. Thank you so much for your trust. With gratitude, Julia.